So tonight we're going to be looking at this badges and schedules lab in Ruby. So first thing I want to do is just get a grasp of where you are at as far as in reference to this lab. So are you before this lab? Have you done this lab? Or are you after this lab at this point in time? You can just throw it in the chat. Okay, so everybody here this evening has gotten past this lab, and Denise said that she remembers having some trouble with it. So that's perfect. Because of that, I'm going to do my best to force you guys to be a little bit more interactive than we sometimes are in these study groups and help me out. I don't want to be writing all the code as we go through this, so let's start thinking about it, and there won't be any wrong answers. Everybody's gotten through it. As long as the tests pass, I believe that you are making the progress. There's no quote unquote right or best way at this point in the curriculum. It's just about understanding the problem enough to get code working to pass the test. So don't worry about that, but we're going to work through it, and yeah, we'll get through this lab. There's 4 methods in this lab, so we should be able to take our time and really step through it and make sure we're understanding everything. That being said, if you have any questions as we're going through this lab tonight, feel free to just stop me in my tracks, shout it out over your microphone if you can, or throw it into the chat. The screen that you see is a second screen from where my chat window is, so sometimes I just don't see what's put in the chat right away. So if you throw a question in there, I promise I'll get to it. If I don't respond to it right away, I probably just haven't seen it yet. So I just don't want you to think that I'm ignoring you if I miss what's in the chat for a few minutes, because that can happen, and it does happen. So cool. The badges and schedules lab. So our objectives are to define methods that use iteration and control the return values of those methods, and define methods that call other methods. So I'm just going to do this right here in our in-browser IDE this evening. And I actually have 2 Ruby files because this was already completed. So I just changed the name of the old one so that it wouldn't be there and the test will run right. And we'll get our Ruby file open, and there we go. So instructions. In this lab, you'll be learning how to iterate through an array and output the results in different ways. Write your code in the conferencebadges.rb file, and you can run the test suite using the learn command. You're hosting a conference and need to print badges for the speakers. Each badge should read, quote, "Hello, my name is blank." Write a badge maker method that, when provided a person's name, will create the return. We'll create and return this message. Example, if we were to call badge maker with an argument of the string Errol, it would say, return the string hello, comma, my name is Errol, period. Okay, so let's tackle that one first. And I'm going to will this get bigger? Yeah, it's getting bigger. I couldn't tell if it was getting bigger for a second, the way it was resizing. Okay, I think that's probably easier to see. I could probably even full screen this, make it even better. There we go. That's solid. Okay, so we got badge maker. Spelling it right is going to be key. Let's get rid of this comment. Badge maker, and the name is passed into that, and there we go. So how would we finish up this first method that we need?
I just used string interpolation for the name. So put the sentence in and then the symbols for the string interpolation with name in the curly brackets.
Something like that.
Right.
All right, let's see what we get. Can I move this? Maybe not.
I think we forgot the period at the end. I think that might be the problem.
There we go. Let's do fail fast. So we just stop at the first failure. So there we go. And if you wrote this with a return, that would be fine as well. However, with Ruby, the last line of our code is always going to be implicitly returned. So we don't have to explicitly return that line. It's just going to happen for us in our methods. So I actually returned everything in this lab when I did it. I wasn't completely understanding that as of yet. Okay. The list of speakers for your conference has been finalized. Your conference speakers are Edgar, Ada, Charles, Alan, Grace, Linus, and Mats. How you scored these luminaries is beyond me, but way to go. Now you'll want to get their badges printed. Write a batch badge creator. Batch badge creator. Method that takes an array of names. So let's just call it names. As an argument, and returns an array of badge messages. Map. Okay. So how would you use map here? What are you calling map on? You got the array, so all right. And that's going to take it. Call map on the array. We can call the individual name. And then what'd you do here? Inside the map. Badge maker name. Sweet. Let's test that. And that works. And so map is going to return a new array, and its elements are going to be whatever is going to be returned out of this iterator. There's not much contrast in these colors. So we're going to get hello, my name is name, each name of the array as we iterate through it, and yeah. Good work. You just realized that you also need to give each speaker a room assignment. Write a method called assign rooms. So assign rooms. That takes a list of speakers and assigns each speaker to a room. Make sure that each room only has one speaker. You have rooms 1 to 7. Return a list of room assignments in the form of hello, blank, exclamation point. You'll be assigned to room blank. Hint, think about how you will assign a room number to each person. Array items are indexed, meaning that you can access each element by its index number. When you are iterating through an array, you can keep track of the index number of the current iteration using an enumerator method called eachWithIndex. Remember that the return value of the each method is the original array that you're calling it on. How can you collect or store the room assignment strings you are creating as you iterate and return them at the end of your assign rooms method? Google or use Ruby Docs to find the correct method. Okay. So it looks like we're doing something similar, but different, because we want to collect and return a new array of our strings, but we also need our eachWithIndex to I wonder what is it? There we go. eachWithIndex. Calls block with two arguments, the item and its index for each item in enum. Given arguments are passed through to each. If no block is given, an enumerator is returned instead. Okay. So we get object and its index to the block. So just like, kind of like map, but. And let's see. Cool. But we get two items to work with. We get the item and its index. It's a little different because some other languages, the index is the first number, and then the item is the second number in that there. Okay, so back to our method. How did one of you get it going? All right, so we got an empty array. And then speakers dot each with index. We have our block, our name, and our index. And then I'm just seeing new array in there. I know the Zoom chat isn't the best place to put code.
Okay, so into the new array, I pushed in the hello name you'll be assigned to room number, and then I just put I+1. I string interpolated the I+1 after the room.
Okay, so let's see. How do we make this a, should be able to make this a do block. And then we'll have more space to look at this. So here you put this hello name.
Right.
You'll be assigned to room and
I+1 exclamation point.
Got it, because the index is going to be 0 based.
Mm-hmm. And I think you, yeah, okay. Oh, you need the closing curly brace after the exclamation point to end the block. Oh, you did you do?
Yes. Yeah, I did
okay,
do instead, yeah, just to put on a new line so we wouldn't be
Got it.
Yeah. I was saying, I don't think so, but yeah, if this was still a curly brace here, then yeah, you're right on. Cool. Let's see if that works for us. Okay, so what did we miss? We got back our original array. not the strings. It's the new array. We just need to return the new array that we've built.
Right.
And I feel like, there we go, that passes. I feel like there's a method that we could do. Somehow. That we wouldn't have to make this sandwich. I know it's always stuck with me that in one of the videos, one of Avi's videos, he says, if you're creating an empty array, iterating through it and pushing to it, and then returning it, you shouldn't have to do that. There's should be a method that will create your new array for you and return it at the end. So like we did here with map. So map is just, for each element. I wonder if there's, I don't think I've looked into it. If there is build new array each with index Ruby. Let's see. No, that's not helping. Not build. Let's see. Return. Return new array. Iterate with index. Ruby. It's a key. Ruby. Hashes, object. Maybe there isn't a way with the index. Maybe that's just for arrays. But there's a way to like do map dot each with index or something, but that's cool. This works. I was just wondering. Because it says, Google will use Ruby docs to find the correct method because remember that the return value, how can you collect or store the room assignment strings you're creating as you iterate and return them at the end of your assign rooms method. But it also says use each with index. So maybe there isn't. Maybe that's trickery. It'd be cool if there is a method. Okay, we'll move on. Now you have to tell the printer what to print. Create a method called printer that will output first the results of the batch badge creator method and then of the assign rooms method to the screen. Hint, remember that methods can call other methods, and I think we've already done that in our batch badge creator, so we've seen that happen. If the return value of assign rooms is an array of room assignments, how can you print out each assignment? You'll need to iterate over your array of room assignments in order to put out each individual assignment. Okay. So let's see. I just want to see what, I can't always remember what we're passing into this last method. matches. Printer. Printer attendees. Okay, and what is attendees? Attendees is up here. It's an array. Okay. Just another array. We can call it attendees. That's what the test says. I remember that this one is kind of tricky because we get this IO std out and expect std out to receive puts with line chomp. Expected one time with arguments, hello, my name is Edsker, received 0 times. It's a different type of error message. And this is trying to explicitly read what's going to be printed in our console. And it's a little bit ambiguous. And I know this one causes a lot of people to stumble. Not maybe the logic, a little bit the logic because it's kind of 2 steps to inside of this method, but also what the output at the end is supposed to be. So let's walk through this one. Okay, so what we need to do is first create all of our messages. Then after that, we need to puts them all to the terminal. Well, it's actually a combination of 2 if I remember right. Let's see our looking for first the results of the batch badge creator method and then the assign rooms method to the screen. So we want to take the output of our batch badge creator and put each element to the screen. And then we want to take the output, the return of our room assignment, and put that to the screen, each element. Cool. So the first thing to do will be the batch creator. We're calling our other method, our attendees. And I don't think I've tried this before, but we might be able to just tack an each on to the end of this. And puts the batch. I honestly don't know if this will work. I didn't do it this way. I'm just honestly wondering if we can iterate over this. I think we can because this returns an array. So this method is pretty much going to be interpreted by Ruby as whatever the return value is. So it's actually going to be this array that comes out of it. And then we're going to call each on that array and throw it into a block. I guess this is a pretty simple block. So we can be straightforward with it. Let's see. I'm wondering. Let's see if we get a different error looking for the puts of the room assignments. Sweet. Okay. So it looks like that first part passed. It's pretty cool because didn't do it that way in the past. Right on. Okay, so following this pattern, how could we do the room assignments? Or print to the console the room assignments strings.
Can do exactly the same thing, just with the assign rooms method, right?
Yeah, I think so. Assign room attendees. So that's going to return an array, and then we call each on that array. We say let's call it rooms to keep it shorter. So we put rooms. And yeah, I think that'll do it. Let's see. Sweet, that worked. It's cool. I didn't think to do it that way before. And even other times coming back through this lab, I haven't thought to do it that way. So it's neat. Any questions about any of this that we've gone through this evening, or anything in this lab about iterating and working with arrays and such?
I think looking at it now a second time, it seems much easier. When I did it the first time, this printer method was really where I got stuck, because I wasn't understanding what they expected the output to be. I mean, I understood what they wanted. I wasn't sure how to get it. So.
Yeah, and I think that's like I was saying, the printer method is the one that most people struggle with. I think because of, one, the error message, and two, we don't understand how to get that to the test, and it's just making that connection of the test wanting a puts instead of a return, and really there isn't a lot in that test to look at except that one line where it returns the error, and it's not very clear, and that makes it hard to kind of even connect. Okay, what is this? Like, not how do I get here, but what does even here at the end mean? And then the fact that it's also two methods, putting them together to create, I guess that would be 14 lines of output, can be a little bit more abstract. But yeah, you'll find that throughout all of this, looking back over it, you're gonna say, oh, this makes a lot more sense now. But that's just the progress and the deeper understanding of things as you move through the course. I'm glad it's making more sense, Heidi.
Thank you. This was great to go over it again.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
It was good to see another way of doing it, because I know the first time when I did the badge creator, I didn't use the badge maker method. What I did was I just also created a new array and pushed that sentence into the new array. So it was good to see that it could be done that way.
Yeah, and like I kind of prefaced the lab with, I don't believe there's any right or wrong way to write your code, especially at this point in the curriculum. There's definitely, at some point, I think, in production in the real world, a way of writing code that's going to be more preferred. But throughout the course and the program, really, if you're passing the tests, I think my advice is always you're doing good. You're understanding it well enough to get the test passing, and that's really what is being tested. And if the tests don't want you to use a certain method or a certain something, there are tests that are built that way that will restrict you. And so don't worry about that aspect of it, and really doing it different ways is what makes coding fun. Everybody solves things a little bit differently. There are, best practices for things. And if you get into an app that has a really heavy workload, and not all do, the large majority of apps out there in the world don't have, billions of users like Facebook and have to worry about things like that. Or, the large majority of technology and companies out there building software aren't, the big five or whatever in the world. So you don't have to worry as much about that perfect code that is super optimized to run the fastest at every single moment in time. If something takes, an extra 10 milliseconds, no one's ever going to notice. So I think we get sometimes obsessed as we get deeper into this with making things right, because performance, everything has to run the fastest, but in the end, it might not have to be, because no one will ever visually be able to notice. I remember reading about how some people wrote in React, and they figured out that they took something that, was rendering in 30 milliseconds, and they could change it into 20 milliseconds. But the human eye can only differentiate between like 35 milliseconds and changes or something. So it actually visually, even though it was running faster, no human could even see the effect of it. So there was actually no real life effect of that, improvement in the code. So yeah, like here's how I solved it way back when. And completely different. I created this speaker.lengths.times do and iterate, and had a counter returned. And so yeah, we all do it a little bit differently, and that's fine. So cool. Thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with me this evening.